Hi, hope you're doing well. I got to talk to a friend about the Odyssey. I guess I've talked to more than one friend about the movie. Um, and that brought the poem to mind. I haven't seen the movie, but it led me to reflect again on how the Odyssey might be portraying trauma millennia before that word was used to describe a reaction to a difficult life experience. And I might do more than one of these talks. I believe there could be quite a few poems to apply this lens to. It helps me, as always, to say that I don't have expertise in trauma. I have expertise in poetry with my PhD in it, and a lot of years writing it. I have experience with trauma, having PTSD. So this talk, and if I get to do any more of those talks too, will come from that angle. And one of the things that struck me when I got to read the Odyssey, I believe I read William Cullen Bryant's translation. I hope to read Emily Wilson's and others also. That's just what I've been able to do so far. And one of the things that struck me was how emotional Odysseus is, which wasn't really something that I had heard or expected. I guess what I had learned about the poem before reading it was about his using his wits over and over again to not die and have these adventures instead. And so when I started reading the poem, I was surprised by all the tears that are portrayed in it. It seems like the writer or writers took time more than once to portray his emotions, his grief, and maybe other emotions too. And it struck me that this is someone who had just been through a war in the first poem. And in the Iliad, I didn't remember seeing him showing feelings like that. I didn't remember moments like that, carefully portrayed. And though there were specific events in the Odyssey that he grieved, deaths of his friends, fellow sailors, it seemed to me that in the Iliad, or in the Trojan War, he had maybe lost many times more people who were in his life. than in the Odyssey. And my own experience with PTSD is that it partly involves a delayed emotional response that's brought up by what I've heard called a trigger. So, a trigger can bring up feelings about a trauma for me, and I can have an overwhelming emotional reaction that I did not have when the original trauma happened. And that's what I personally see in the Odyssey. I see Odysseus responding not only to the losses that the poem portrays, but to other losses too. And to me, it's not a coincidence that that goes along with having the series of adventures that, compared to the Iliad, are disjunctive. They're very different from each other, and they present very different challenges that require very different solutions. The Iliad, in my reading, was more or less the same kinds of events over and over involving different characters. You know, it was war composed of battles. And the Odyssey, by contrast, is, to me, very strange. And because it's so ingrained in Western literature, Western culture, the strangeness of it has it's maybe become normal and maybe helped define normal in Western culture. But to go from, I don't remember the order that they happen in, but to go from trying to fool a Cyclops to trying to deal with an island goddess, to trying to get between a whirlpool and a rock, to trying to deal with singers who can kill by their singing. You know, they're not too much like each other. And in my personal experience with PTSD, there's a lack of a sense of uniformity in life events. They can seem bizarrely different from each other, and even if they are similar, you know, empirically, rationally, it can seem like one experience gives me absolutely no information on how to deal with the same kind of experience if it happens again. There's a sense of just, all right, I'm out of my depth again here. And I believe that's my PTSD, like my therapist would say, trying to keep me safe, trying to keep me on my toes, basically in fight mode. no matter what might be coming, just in case. So Odysseus, having come from, this horrible war, not that there's a non-horrible one, but 10 years of it, something like that. Uh, just relentless decade of it. And from what I remember of that poem, comes to the experience of homecoming, or trying to get home. And even with the dangers that sailing might have had then, I would say objectively, leaving a war and coming home would be much more peaceful of an experience than being at war. It might be a relief overall. It might be pretty uneventful. But PTSD, and in my own experience of it, again, to keep me on my toes, can make obstacles out of anything, where there are none, basically. And so Odysseus's adventures seem to me to be powerful and memorable metaphors for post-traumatic stress. And along with that is finding some of the worst threats in home itself. Before I actually read the Odyssey, something that I don't think I had heard about it was what happened in Ithaca while he was gone and what he had to deal with when he came back. I figured that's his home. He's trying to get back there, and when he gets back there, that'll be great. How could there be anything there for him to have to deal with, especially compared to the war that he came from? But it's and I don't really have much of a historical context on the poem, personally, but in a way, what's happening in Ithaca seems to me almost as bizarrely deadly. I mean, dangerous in just a weird, unexpected way, as all of these monsters that he encounters along the way, and all of the monstrous events. There are suitors, people who are after his wife, who are eating all the food, and he's got to come back and kill all of them. That's the poem's kind of resolution. And it's obviously not funny, the violence that's being talked about there, but it seems to me unlike any other kind of, domestic threat I've seen portrayed in classical literature. And there again, to me, it seems like potentially a powerful metaphor for post-traumatic stress. It's what are the dangers that could happen in a journey home? The the brain with PTSD might say, and then event, not hallucinations, but kind of invent feelings at least, um, and those might be like the danger of a whirlpool, the danger of something luring people into the water, the danger of what might happen if you get on shore at the wrong place. Okay, so he goes through all of those things, and then what danger might be happening in the home, and what danger might be happening in my home while I'm not there. And so with my own personal PTSD tendency, my mind can make, there's basically no limit to how dire the threats can seem. And so to me, what's happening in Ithaca is powerfully maybe appropriate to post-traumatic stress or representation of it, because what's happening is death. It's people who have, when he's gone, the death is to people who have been left vulnerable there. This terrible threat, this terrible danger. And then, because I don't personally believe Penelope was looking at like a happy marriage to any of those suitors, it seemed like they were after her. Basically, they were after Odysseus's position and after basically subjugation of anyone they could subjugate. And then there must be, for Odysseus, a threat waiting in the home that's deadly for him too, that he's got to overcome. And so that to me, again, is powerful metaphorical material that for me it metaphorizes PTSD. And this is my own reading of the poem, for sure. And it would I forget what I was going to say, but with my reading of the poem and with my PTSD, I do find a powerful sense of connection to it. A sense that kind of some of the strangeness and the difficulty in my own brain finds an answer, representation deep in history. And that helps me feel like there have been maybe many others like me. And it's different from maybe a technical or kind of surface awareness of that, like I get from reading things about PTSD, which is it's certainly helpful for me to read. There's so much online and reading that my therapist has given me that's been really helpful for my healing, to look at those things and go, okay, I'm very far from the only one with this. I find something unique about the not aloneness that literature maybe especially classical literature can give me. Um, there's an even deeper sense of kinship with other people, I guess. And that in itself I find healing. Thank you.